first episode of the Young and Hungry podcast. My name is Carol Ann. I am the Director of Children and Family Ministries at Wentzville United Methodist Church, and I also have the honor of running the youth group here. We decided to create this podcast as a way to bring the youth group together and also reach not only beyond into our church, but beyond our church and see if we can get some new listeners to this podcast. The podcast itself will be a movie review podcast. We are going to review films that are family or faith themed. And each month or so, we will put out a new episode, and sort of the outline of each episode, so that you know, is that we will start with events coming up in the church so that you are updated and know what's going on if you want to join us. And then we'll go into a prayer that fits the theme of the movie that we watched, and maybe you can guess which one we watched based on that. Then after that, we are going to go into a synopsis of the film. There will be no spoilers in this section. This is just to give you a little bit of an idea of what the movie is about if you have never watched it. Then if you want to pause the episode there, go watch the movie and come back. The next section of our episode will be spoilers and what we thought was interesting about the film. A couple of our thoughts, some open-ended questions, things that made us think while watching the movie. And then last, we will go into the message that the film gave us while we were watching it, or if there's a faith connection, we want to make sure and touch base on that. We want to make sure that this podcast gives you some good ideas for movies and some interesting thoughts about movies that you might love and maybe want to watch again. And then we will go ahead and wrap up. So going into that event section, just so that you are all up to date on everything that is happening. The next event that is happening at Wentzville United Methodist is our Trunk or Treat, which is coming up Friday, October 14th from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And if you are interested, you can go on our website and you can contact someone through the website. We are also on all social media, or you can contact C. Miller at livelovegrow.org if you want to sign up for the trunk or treat just to be a guest, or if you want to sign up and actually hand out candy. So we're super excited about that event and want a lot of people to come. And now I'm going to take it over to Trinity, who has our prayer.
Lord, I thank you because you are always true to your word. You love those who speak the truth always and hate those who tell lies. I want you to be truthful always, and I want people to confide in me and also bring glory to your name. Lord, give me the power to speak the truth in all circumstances and to stand by it. Amen.
Awesome. So maybe think about what movies that would go with, but I have Cora and Aiden here to tell us a little bit more about the film that we watched.
Hi, I'm Cora, and the movie that we watched today is Ratatouille. The movie was made in 2007, and some of the starring actors are Patty Oswalt, Will Arnett, Lou Romano, Ian Holm. I will let Aiden pronounce this last name as I will butcher it.
Okay, I'm Aiden, and this last name is French, and I'm gonna butcher it too, but I'm gonna say Jeannot Garfalio, Jeanne, whatever. So this part of the synopsis is not gonna have any spoilers, and I will pause, and then I will continue to the part with the spoilers. So Remy is a rat who loves to cook, and he finds himself at the kitchen of his favorite chef, Gusteau. He helps a young and unexperienced chef named Alfredo. They work together from his hat, and the restaurant is booming. Little do they know that a rat is the real genius behind the work. Okay, I'm gonna pause it there because from here on is spoilers.
Just wanted to let you know, this youth group chose this movie because of the love of the movie we all grew up with, except for Autumn. She is not a big fan, but she is a trooper, and she stormed along and watched the movie with us. We also chose this movie because it has a great message along with fun humor throughout. Back to Aiden.
All right, so now you've had time to pause and watch the movie if you haven't. I'm saying spoilers. So Gusteau died originally because of a bad review by Ego. And he's a hungry hippo. And he came back to review the restaurant again because he just has a grudge against them for some reason. After some drama between Remy and Alfredo, everyone on the staff quits, and it's just them and his main love interest, who none of us could remember the name of. It's just them and Remy and the entire colony of rats that help him. And they work together to serve dinner for the rest of the night. Ego is impressed, and he writes an amazing review for the restaurant. But unfortunately, they did commit minor crime whenever they tied up the restaurant inspector, like the food safety inspector.
And Mr. French guy who,
Yeah.
broke into
The mean guy.
kitchen.
Yeah. They do commit crime and do that. So the restaurant gets shut down because all these rats were in there and stuff. But they start their own restaurant and they all live happily ever after. So that's the synopsis.
Awesome. So that was a great synopsis. We are going to go over to Annika and Autumn, who have some interesting things that they thought of while watching the film and just some thoughts that they had.
Okay, so I'm Annika, and the theme of this movie to me was believing in your dreams and trusting your friends. That's what I got. Isn't that kind of
Yes, my name's Autumn, and I got that exact same thing.
Yes. And for me personally, on a scale of 1 to 5, I would rate it a 4 out of 5, but I know not everybody feels that way.
I would rate it a 3.5 out of 5, and so that brings us to 3.75 out of 5, in case you were wondering.
The average.
The average.
I would recommend this movie to kids mostly, but adults, watching along with their kids. Everybody knows we watch family movies as a family. Anybody above 6, I'd say, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's a pretty good
Age, yeah.
yeah.
Interesting thoughts I had while watching the movie. They specifically reference the afterlife. Alfredo's mom died, and whenever somebody asked about it, he was like, oh, she's dead, but she believed in heaven, so she's covered. So that was a specific reference to heaven and an afterlife.
Yes. I also got that you should trust in your friends, that friendship is really important in life, and you should also trust in God, therefore.
Yes, it's a very strong message about trust, blind trust, trusting your friends. I mean, the main character is a young chef who cannot cook, and the rat in his hat is the main chef, the main brains behind the operation. And Alfredo trusts Remy, the rat, to not only cut, onions and foods like that, but also deal with hot substances, even though Remy has to see through the hat. So not a whole lot of vision, but they still trust each other equally.
I would be scared, and I don't know if I would have trust in a rat. Just saying.
Yeah, I don't think I could trust any rat with my life, or at least my fingers as you're cutting up vegetables. So yeah, basically the overall message was anybody can cook. Wasn't that kind of like?
Yes. So basically, an artist can come from anyone, and even Ego said that an artist can come from anyone because Gusto's saying was anyone can cook, and that may not be the truth, but an artist can come from anyone.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's definitely a main focus plot point of the movie that is
Yes.
referenced several times. So that's what we noticed. That's what we would, kind of overall general consensus about this movie. So yeah.
Yeah, so I think those are really interesting. So just an open question. Why do you think you guys like this movie so much? This was one of our number one choices when we were going through for our first episode, but why do you like it? Annika has some thoughts.
I really like the animation style, and I really like the message. It not only made sense to me whenever I was a kid, but it makes sense to me now, and it's can be considered in many aspects of lives, whether you're a 6-year-old watching the movie for the first time or a 17-year-old watching the movie for your 60th time. It has a good message and is overall uplifting.
So it sounds like, and if you all would agree, this movie is timeless.
Yes.
For
sure.
Definitely.
So why do you think that this movie is so relevant and so popular? Do you think it's just because of the message? You think that it translates to, yes, Cora has a thought.
I think it's because the animation is really timeless, as they kind of said. It doesn't look super old, and I know there are kids these days who won't watch movies because they're older. So I think this movie, it's not made in a way where you can tell it was made a while ago, or you can tell it was made more recently. You know, it won't cause as many kids to judge it before they even watch it.
Do you think that you guys would have different opinions if it was 2D animation? Like old princess movies, like Disney movies, and the flat animation sort of, Annika?
As somebody who really loves 2D animation, is actually my favorite art style. I would say it would have a different feel to it. It would feel, not only give it a little bit more of a older feeling, than like the kind of 3D style and concepts. But I feel like it would tell slightly different, more whimsical story versus the kind of a little bit grittier, a little bit more realistic 3D animation will portray. Even to like the rat's design, it was not a realistic rat, but it was a realistic enough design that it felt real. You know what I mean? Like 2D animation would have felt more like a cartoon, whereas this you kind of are immersed into it, So.
It's a little bit ahead of its time. I think this was one of the only ones that had 3D animation at the time, because the next princess movies that had 3D animation was Frozen, I think, which was a couple years after that.
Yeah.
Let me look it up.
Oh, okay.
Ratatouille was made in 2007 and Frozen came out in 2013. So it was several years after. I mean, obviously other studios, I think, did 3D animation during that time. Maybe Pixar, I think, did a few in between that time.
Film?
It is I think it is a Disney Pixar film. But I feel like Pixar probably did some in between those two movies. But again, it was one of the first ones. In 2007, I think one of the only other 3D animation films that had come out at that time was like Toy Story. Like it was really early on in 3D.
Rapunzel came first.
Tangled?
Tangled.
2010. Oh, dang.
Tangled was made and published in 2010.
Well, that really ages me.
Is there
I was
any
kind of
other
hoping
movies
it would
that-
be 2016.
Frozen
Frozen was
Frozen was
2013.
2013.
That is one movie that I will always remember the year it came out.
Well, speaking of Frozen was a movie that became a musical. There was also talk of this movie becoming a musical. It was a wave that swept TikTok about 1 or 2 years ago. Maybe it was 2 years ago by now. Do you think that this could make it as a musical?
No.
Aiden
No,
says
I mean-
no.
I mean, put it on a stage. It's a guy in a rat costume under a dude's hat controlling him. Like that doesn't translate into a musical.
What
that well.
about Cats?
Cats started wonky, all right? Cats was weird from the start. Ratatouille wasn't.
I think with the right confidence and the right people, then maybe possibly it could be done. But would it scare kids? Yes, I think it would scare little kids.
It scared me.
Do you know what also is a musical is Rudolph, the Red-Nosed Reindeer? I think though, maybe it would work if they had puppets. Do you think it would work if they did puppetry?
Puppetry, actually.
I do agree that to portray animals in musicals, puppetry is definitely a better, more whimsical way to portray animals. I'm just thinking about the Lion King musical and the way they portray the lions and all the characters as like humans with like animal colors and like features. It's terrifying, personal opinion. So I think having puppets as the animals would be a lot better than having humans portraying animals, because I mean, realistically, that's creepy. It's terrifying. It's horrendous to watch. So yeah, that's just my personal opinion.
So one more question for us to think about. Would you go to a restaurant that was run by Remy?
10 out of 10, yes.
Immediately, yes.
He
Yes,
serves the best food.
Autumn has some thoughts.
I have the opposite side of the spectrum where I say no, definitely not. Just think about the germs, really, especially since COVID, we have become more germ phobics kind of a thing. So would you really want a rat running around on your plate?
But what are your thoughts on like cat cafes or like,
Cat cafes are awesome.
I love them.
but if they were rats, we would not go to restaurants.
Exactly. That is the
Correct.
exact point.
He does put himself through the dishwasher and is thoroughly cleaned. So I gotta give him that. He is being sanitary.
I would also like to note that if a rat actually went through the dishwasher, he would die immediately. So that's not a logistical point.
Let
we
me
can
live
make.
my fantasy.
Aiden has some thoughts.
I mean, like a rat going through a dishwasher, right? It's not perfect. The plague was caused by rats, right? Rats
That was in
in
1720.
rats in food caused widespread death among Europe. All right. Do we really want to relive those horrors? No.
Jenna, do you have some thoughts?
I gotta say, considering if he gets cleaned enough, I feel like if they got the germs and bacteria off of him, I feel like theoretically the restaurant would pass in the grading that the US does for the food safety. Sorry, I don't know what it's called, but
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. They go through and they
So-
make sure it's. Yeah.
if they have the right sanitation, I feel like it'd be fine.
Yeah,
It's
if they pass inspection, why not?
And considering the rats would probably be in the hats of the people cooking, I feel like that makes it a little bit better. But that's just my opinion.
Annika, and then we also have after Annika, Cora has some thoughts.
So just gonna say it. I don't know why anybody would trust a rat in their hat. Like, is that just me? Like, we're talking about like if this was an actual restaurant and rats actually could cook, and you could actually have a rat control your body. Like, would people just like volunteer to have that happen? Like would these rats just kind of like find hosts and just like, I don't know. That's just weird.
But can everybody be a host, or is Alfredo special?
I think Alfredo is special. He's stupid, and I don't think he has much of a brain to begin with.
Monica's just brutal.
It's just like he's like not the brightest. And like
He's
Gustav's
son.
I just feel like he was easier to control because he was like not as smart. Like I feel like if he tried to control like what's her name, it just like wouldn't work. She's like good enough of a chef. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there was emptiness in his brain, and so like.
Oh my gosh. Good Lord.
He has the talent. He just needed someone to get it out.
Yes,
it's
yes,
like-
he was like an empty host, and
He didn't attempt to
gosh.
get better at cooking.
Yeah.
He just
Okay.
automatically assumed after little bit of practice that he was not going to be good at it. In order to be good at something, you have to practice. And Alfredo Linguini did not practice enough until he found that rat. So you never got to figure out if he was a good cook or not.
Aiden has some thoughts. Yes.
What I'm getting at from this whole conversation is that we have like a Voldemort Professor Quirrell thing going on here. Like really, like a really not that great dude that has like a genius on the back of his head, right?
Oh yes. that
Yeah,
is
like he's not that powerful, but
Chamber of Secrets?
yeah, but like if you have someone that's better at something than you, then you can always learn from them
Yes, that is very true.
and then get turned into dust.
All right, those are some of our thoughts, and those were some interesting answers. I hope you enjoyed them as much as I did. But before we wrap it up, I do want to take it over to Jenna, and she is going to talk about the message and the faith connection for our film.
Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna talk about the message of the story and how it connects to faith, and then we'll go on from there. So I feel like the faith connection in the story is kind of like food is kind of like Christianity, as everybody has their own different tastes and can learn different things about it, and it can also bring people joy when you share about it. But I also think that if you try hard enough, you can become a good Christian with practice and help.
Yeah,
Just like
absolutely.
we needed. And some Bible verses that I think would go with this are a lot of the verses where Jesus is with those who are outcasts and usually people that people would not talk to.
Awesome. That is a great faith connection. So To summarize our film watching experience, what is one word just off the top of your mind that come when you think about Ratatouille? What is one word? Let's go around the room, starting with Cora. One word.
Is wee a word?
We is a word.
We.
Aiden?
I'm gonna let it go around. I'm gonna think about that for a second.
Okay, Annika?
Immediately, just rat. That's all that comes to my head.
All right, Autumn.
Silly.
Jenna?
Food.
Trinity?
I'm gonna say what Annika said.
Rat. Whenever I think of this movie, it is more than one word, but I think about that grape and the cheese that he put together and ate. And I just think of that experience. It's like the music, it's the forbidden food of the animation that I want to eat.
This would be a good time to play the music.
So maybe my word is charcuterie.
Charcuterie.
Annika?
I would just like to note that in real life, grapes and cheese are not as amazing as he made it sound. It is a horrendous combination of texture and flavor that should never ever be eaten together. So I warn anybody who's like, oh, that looks like it's gonna be so wonderful and so magical when they were a kid. It's not that good. So
And
there you go.
Still gonna try it.
It's not good. Aiden, do you have a word that you thought of?
After hearing everyone else's, I'm gonna like kind of base mine off of Cora's. Baguette.
Baguette.
It's
All right.
food, it's French, it's everything perfect about
Croissant.
the movie. Croissant.
Awesome. So any last thoughts before we wrap up? No? Yes,
The
Annika.
fact, what does everybody think about can anybody cook? Is that just a question anybody else has?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I think if I taught my sister how to cook, she could be great at it.
Yeah.
She,
I think,
she's
yeah.
able to, but she hasn't really practiced. But I think at one point, maybe I could teach her because I'm not that bad of a cook. But I think that if somebody really tried, they can make a pretty good bowl of pasta.
Okay, we have some thoughts. Let's go to Jenna, then Autumn, and then Aiden.
I kind of agree with Cora on the sense that if they get enough teaching, then anybody can really cook.
Do you think that anybody can master any skill if they say that is it 21,000 hours of practice can make you a professional. So if you do something for that amount of time, then you're a professional. Anybody?
Depending on the
Maybe.
thing, like maybe not rocket science, but definitely.
Autumn, did you have some thoughts?
I really thought that if you put forth the effort, you can really achieve whatever you put your mind to.
Yeah, awesome. Annika?
Yeah, going off the can anybody cook and then from there, can anybody do anything if they put their minds to it? No. I feel like anybody can cook because that's something that not only will you use for the rest of your life, it can make you, your family, like just like healthier overall cooking. You know what I mean? Like it's a skill that I think a lot of people should know. But I do not think that anybody can do anything they put their mind to, you know, like from nuclear radiation specialists, like nobody wants just your random run-of-the-mill Joe working with nuclear radiation. So no, I don't think anybody can do anything they put their minds to.
Unless Joe has a rat. under his
Yes,
hat.
if
Yeah.
Joe has a rat under his hat, he can do anything. So yes,
A rat named Remy,
Yeah.
to be specific.
you gotta name the rat Remy, apparently.
All right. Is that all of our thoughts on this film? Aiden has one more.
Just on the topic of can anyone cook? Has anyone ever tried to teach a rat how to cook? Like actually tried?
My mom would kill the rat if she saw it in the house.
But like, can anyone cook?
I
No.
know that they are very smart.
They're smart, but has a rat
They-
ever cooked
I think-
some dish
Let's
before?
look it up on Google.
I think a rat could do a lot of things, but they cannot cook. They can eat grapes and cheese together. I think a rat has the mental capacity to do that, but there's no way that a rat can cook. Just
Okay,
gonna
so I
say
think
it.
we just
Jeez.
disproved that anyone can cook.
I'm sorry.
Oh my lord.
I looked up has a rat ever, and the first most searched thing that popped up was has a rat ever killed a human? Let's
Okay.
just
Plague.
not ask that question.
Plague. Yeah.
Ever? Well, technically yes, but I think they're thinking like homicide kind of thing going on. Has a rat ever cooked a meal? Loading. Oh, my lord, that is not what I was looking for.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say no. There's never
No, we've cooked rats, but they.
Yes, cooking rats is my side hobby. I love doing that.
I don't recommend it.
Someone loves it somewhere.
10 out of 10 recommend the movie. Don't 10 out of 10 recommend it. Yeah, no.
But the message still remains, if you put your mind to something, then you can succeed. Jenna, do you have one more thought?
Speaking about the restaurant thing,
Uh-huh.
it's mostly usually the rats we think of when they carry diseases.
Mm-hmm.
Usually those rats are always out in the wilderness, so that's why they have those things. Like theoretically, rats,
Yeah,
if they've never been out, are honestly really clean.
that's
People
true.
can actually keep them as pets.
That is true. That is true.
You can buy them at your pet stores and have them as pets. They're actually really loving and great for children, especially if you're allergic to cats or dogs. I
And
watched a whole video about it.
if you're
once.
craving rats, you can just go and buy some.
Yeah.
Grill them up.
Not necessary, Annika. We are in
Barbecue
church.
night, you know?
Barbecue, bro.
Spicy.
Y'all eat chicken? What the heck? How is a rat any different?
On that note, we want to thank you for joining us on our first episode of the Young and Hungry podcast. And if you or someone you know is interested in learning more about Wentzville United Methodist Church, you can visit our website at livelovegrow.org. Find us on any social media, including Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or contact me, C. Miller at livelovegrow.org for more details about our church or our youth group. Thank you all, and we want to remind you,
Stay hungry.
Stay hungry.